Hey, everybody, welcome to the Blacklist, the show where we interview the elite. Today we have a treat. Today we have my good friend, Michael Marcial. Did I say your last name correctly?
Nailed it.
Perfect. He's the CEO of Revolt, and honestly, he's been my friend for a while now. First connected on Facebook
Yep.
and helped me out a lot. And honestly, he's one of those men that you look up to because he has a good family life. He's good spiritually. Right now, he's working on fitness and all that type of stuff. But in all reality, in the landscape that we're in right now, for where men are at, and how I feel like they are kind of, they're just not allowed to be men. I think
Mhm.
you're a very good role model. So.
I appreciate that coming from you, man. I seriously appreciate that, and it's an honor to be on the show. You guys at home and whoever's watching this, I mean, you get to see a really nice production, but you don't really see the grit and the determination that goes into putting on a show like this. So, hats off to you, man. And it's been an honor to know you and connect with you. So,
Thank you, dude. Well,
honored
I
to be here.
appreciate that. Let's get right into it because I think a lot of men, and like you said, you and Jake were kind of speaking about this before, kind of walking in. But I do agree. Like I think right now in this current landscape, men are not allowed to be men, right? There's this thing, toxic masculinity, all that good
Yep.
stuff. But I've been watching some of your lives that you've been posting recently, and you don't show any toxic masculinity, dude. You're very you're a very wholesome dude, wholesome man. So walk us through why do you think that is, number one? And then number two, like how do we combat that? Because we got to bring
Right.
it back.
Yeah. Well, and just to kick this conversation off, I think really what it comes down to, if I'm being 100% with you, is that I don't feel like a toxically masculine man, but I have traditional enough values and views. And I think there's a wider and wider gap between the conversation that needs to happen and the conversation that is happening,
Yeah.
because I believe that men are hurting. I think we put a lot on ourselves, and I think we believe that society does as well. And what ends up happening is, out of self-preservation, we're talking a lot about our needs. And it almost feels like we're also saying that anything else that isn't our need as a man is not an issue,
Right.
right? And so if I'm a woman and I hear that message, what does that stoke up in me? Well, wait a minute. Women have been oppressed and all of these other things. Well, just because one is true doesn't mean the other is true. There's that duality that exists. And so I think the real conversation is that humans are hurting. This construct that we have around us isn't really built for our success, and we don't even really know what that needs to look like. And so I think the conversation isn't, is a man toxic because he loves his family, has a faith in God, wants community, wants to show up as a leader, wants to take care of his family and provide and protect. Like that's not toxic in almost any sense of the word. And I have hundreds, thousands of these conversations, nobody agrees that that's toxic until we start feeling like we're separate from the other side.
Yeah.
And there really is no other side. We're all
Yeah.
human. That's it.
Yeah. You actually touched on a big thing right now. Like that to me was an eye opener because you're right. I don't think it's the and it's not probably the wrong word, but it's like the Me Too kind of thing where it's
Sure.
like not the women's Me Too, but it's like okay, they like for example like women in this scenario, so like, well, me too. I am oppressed too. I am hurting too, and therefore, because you're not acknowledging me and my hurt, your stuff can't be acknowledged, or your stuff is
Right.
toxic, or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, why can't we just look at it for face value? It's like, you're right. This is good. This is great. And by the way, I have to throw in my little thing too. Like, yeah. So, why do you think we're unable to do so? Is it because we're so divided right now?
I think it's because we're all hurt and we all want to be seen.
Hmm.
That's it. Right. So when we really look at it, yeah, I can empathize for the sole value of pointing to myself as well.
Yeah.
Because I am hurting, I'm bleeding profusely, I need some help. Right. And so if you just cut your leg off and you're bleeding out, well, I've also severed a thumb over here. I need medical attention.
Right.
And both of those things are true. The duality exists that both of those things are true. And so it doesn't make any one of them more prominent or more important. It's just that we need to understand that there's, whether it's by design or by default, we are not following a pattern that is really built to serve us at our highest good.
Yeah.
And so when we have these conversations inside of Revolt, it's our men's mastermind. When we start having these conversations with men, you would expect, probably from the outside looking in, that these men, they're running, a million, 5, 10, $60 million companies, and they've got their families and they've got their lives and they've got the pressures that come with that. And so when they walk into a mastermind, a retreat, like that they're really closed off, really guarded, stoic, right? Ego, pride through the roof. And it's the exact opposite.
Yeah, yeah.
The truth is, and this was so funny, man, like the last members retreat, one of the last ones that we had out in St. George, Utah, beautiful cabin, up in the mountains. It was snowy because it was December. It was amazing. And one of the trucks got stuck coming up the mountain because it's all snowy and icy.
Right.
This truck happened to be pulling a trailer with all of our supplies.
Oh, shoot.
So to put on like our event, our different, I don't want to give too much away, but some of the aspects of our retreat were now in the trailer behind this truck, stuck on a hill. Okay. So what does that mean? Well, we're counting down. It's like, man, we're a couple hours away. We really need that stuff here.
Yeah.
And it was far enough where it wouldn't make sense for, these 90 guys to go like grab a bunch of, stuff and trek it up the hill. Would not have worked. So what did we do? We started the whole thing off with buying some time with a hot seat. And for
That's
those
smart.
that
Yeah.
don't know, a hot seat just means, hey, one person takes the floor. What's the biggest challenge you're dealing with? And open it up to these men that have all experienced different facets of life. And let's pour in. And the very first person that got up there was talking about how his mother had cancer, was in the hospital. He was crumbling on the inside and needed support from his guys.
Yeah.
Within 5 minutes of the retreat starting, right? Not like, oh yeah, it's really tough when my business only does $5 million a year and I'm really great. And what do you think about my suit jacket and my nice watch?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't that conversation at all.
Yeah.
Right. And so what does that say? We need that community back into the equation. How do we learn? Right. And if you're growing up trying to figure out everything on your own and build the wheel on your own, and I'm doing the same and you're doing the same and you're doing the same, we grow incrementally. When we come together, we grow exponentially.
Yeah.
And that's the piece that I feel like is missing. And that's where revolt is like we absolutely, like I literally have goosebumps thinking about what happens inside of those walls in that container, because that's the truth. We all are hungry for community, and we deserve to have our guys get our back.
Yeah. Question for you.
Let's go.
In that community, right?
Yeah.
Is it a lot of men that want to feel heard but don't, and now they're with a group of people that are doing either very similar stuff financially, or they're kind of like in the same field? And the reason I'm asking you that is because I think outside of that group, in the world that we're in right now, everybody wants to feel seen and heard, and when they
100%.
don't, they throw tantrums and things like that. Are these the people that don't care to be seen or heard and need it?
These are generally people that when you look at them from the outside, they have things figured out.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said at the beginning of the show, well, you've got a great family life and business and all these color, super handsome or whatever you said.
Yeah.
Very good looking guy or whatever you said. Your words, not mine. Yeah, on the outside, right? But on the inside, what would you experience? Right? You see the calm on the outside. It's the front that we put on. And maybe that's very true. We're happy, we're healthy, we're focused, we're dialed in. But we also have stuff going on up here.
Yeah.
And in here. And so I think when we really look at it, when we look at these guys, it's very similar. Great guys, awesome husband, awesome father, great leader in their business.
Yeah.
Right? They're giving back to their communities. Like one of our members literally built a village in Africa for people to live and thrive, have education, water, food.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like you see these types of things all the time, but we're still battling, and I think it's the breakdown of that kind of tribal spirit that we're experiencing right now. Just so separate and disparate, and we're desperate to bring that thing back together. And so that's where the mastermind for me fills a huge, purpose hole in my life. It's just like, yes, this is what we need. And we see massive change and growth in our members because of it. Like, yes, the business stuff is fun to talk about. Bob comes in at 1 million in 12 months, he's doing 4 million, but it's not just because we helped out with business processes and team and hiring and protocols.
Yeah.
Right. It's because now he's stepping fully into who he feels, called to be, his full potential. And he's bringing his family on board, his team on board. And everyone's like, damn, Bob is a different beast right now. And guess what that does? It wakes up that inner beast for other people too. And so when I really look at it, I see it boiled down almost to like 3 pillars. Like what drives men, and I've always seen it as like competition, completion, and community.
Yeah.
Those two things, like if you really dial in, competition, like everyone likes to say iron sharpens iron,
Yep.
you know, but what does that actually mean? It means iron clashes, grits against another piece of metal, right? So if you really look at that, that means, you know, when I walked in here, I was eyeballing the place. I was like, all right, what's Ulyses wearing? Like, how do I show up? I even asked, like, should I do the jacket or not the jacket?
Yeah.
You know, there's a pecking order. We need to figure out who's in the room with us. And can I trust that person with my life? You know, and if I really want to grow, we need that competition. You know what I mean? Like Jake and I were heading down this way, and I could tell like we were both started to walk a little bit faster, and there was unspoken rules about the walk. Like I start walking, I'm like a good 6 inches shorter than Jake, right? So I'm taking longer strides, and he's like side eyeing me, and he's walking a little bit faster, and that breeds something. It shows where's our competency, where are we, you know, struggling, and so that iron sharpens iron is true, but we need that competition. We thrive off of that, and I think sometimes we miss that.
Yeah.
The competition, the real competition, not the fake stuff, not like what are you wearing, not material stuff, but like who are you as a man, right? And are you really that person?
Yeah.
If you're willing to say it out loud, if it's on your social media, are you living it in life?
Yeah.
If I ask your wife, are you that guy? And she gives me the look,
You're not that guy.
you're not that guy,
Yeah.
right? So that integrity piece, but we need competition to test our mettle.
Right. Right.
That's number one, I think.
Well, why is this so important to you?
Is this do you put music like where I cry here? Is this it?
This is
for
the moment.
For the reels? Okay. You know, why it becomes so important to me is born out of my own story. You know, I grew up without my dad in my life. My mom and dad divorced when I was about 2, a little less than 2. And I just didn't have that example growing up. And I think back to all of these instances where I actually compared myself to a fake version of myself, like a made up version. So when I was 11, I started growing facial hair. Like
No way.
Yeah. High testosterone.
I don't believe it.
I'm a Superman. There's pictures. It's crazy. So I'm like 11. I've got like, you know, some hairs coming through, and I'm like, I'm a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was also like one of the most eye-opening, like a feeling of sadness that I had, because I was like, I don't know how to shave. I really like. It's funny like looking back at it, but I didn't have some of these pieces in my life that were, you know, I had a picture, a mental image of my dad showing me how to buy a razor and shaving cream, and like, you know, me in the mirror shaving for the first time with him over my shoulder.
Yeah.
Didn't have it. So I had to figure out these little things that in my being, I felt like I was very different and isolated from everybody else instantly. Because everybody else had this. Everybody else had this. When I was getting picked up from school, my mom was late because she had to work, right? And I had to walk the 4 miles home with all my stuff from school. And I'm seeing everybody else getting picked up by their dads or their moms or whatever, or their whole family unit. I was different. And so I think what I've seen is that lack of community, and that's a big one for me. I love, like, this is why I get along with you, because you are a master of building what I would call community for yourself and your clients, your network, and it's a big deal for me. And I think that's where it's born. It's just like I want more of that. I want to see other guys who I know are hurting, who have their own mental gymnastics that they do every single day, to know that they're not alone, right? And this plays into mental health. This plays into all sorts of things, and it's not just a placeholder to say mental health. This is what drives the world, the traumas that we've experienced, the outcomes of those things. And we really need to dig into this. This is a real conversation, because if we want different, we need to do different. And so for me, growing up without that father figure, I had to figure it out on my own because I was so isolated. And I've experienced this, and we see the stats, right? 50% of all marriages end in divorce. Okay, so what does that mean? Half of the men out there, if not more, are bottlenecking themselves into the same category.
Yeah.
And isolated. And I don't know how. And I need to figure this out. And I need to be strong. I need to figure this out. Me. I need to rely on myself. So when the time comes, I'm not really relying on you. When the time comes to build my business, it's tough to grow my team. When when it comes down to money and finances, I don't know how to balance my checkbook, but I'm going to figure out how to make us financially free forever. The two don't line up. And so it becomes really important to me because I've been there and I've felt it. And the realness that comes with battling depression, anxiety, overwhelm, for me, led to my own divorce. Oddly enough, when my daughter was the same age I was when my mom and dad divorced, going through a year-long depression, being evicted from my apartment, not making any income because I wasn't doing much of life at that point. And you referenced, focusing on my physical health. I negated everything. I neglected myself. And I've seen this pattern play out in so many other guys. And not one person's willing to say, hey, it's all of it. We get to actually dive into this thing for real. And I think people are scratching the surface, but it's from their own pain, right? Like we're looking to all these idols to walk us through this. And I don't know if you've ever experienced this with even some of your guests or people in your network, where it is like I'm hurting, and so I want to help people like I've been hurt.
That's like a common theme.
Yeah, it's the hero's journey. And I want to go deeper than that. That says, yeah, I've been hurt, and I'm struggling with this, and I'm working on that, but I'm amazing here, and I know I'm getting better there, and so are other people. It's a holistic approach. Maybe at home you can't see this, but there's a glass wall right here with people walking by. Praise to this guy for not even breaking eye contact. That's strength, okay? I'd be all over the place because it's a beautiful studio and there's, beautiful people walking by. But I guarantee if we grabbed any random person walking by and sat them in this chair, we would be moved to tears by their story. Absolutely crushed by what they could share with us. 100%. And that's the theme I want to talk about. And around men, it's born from my own story. I'm like, yes, how do I get better as a human, as a man? How do I show up the best I possibly can, right? But how do I bring that full circle for other people? And that, I think, is a missing link. We're struggling ourselves. We're focused on our own growth. What about everyone else?
What's the transformation that happens to you when you help someone through that?
I think there's a selfish layer to that, 100%. When I see the same ahas that I've been through in life, it's like it's almost like self-healing. They say when you teach something, you learn it twice. So when I get to impart some wisdom or I get to support somebody else in doing that for other people, it's like hell yeah. It's like going back in time and serving little Mikey, which, by the way, little Mikey was only like 2 inches shorter than me, right? But that's what it feels like. It kind of feels like a time machine going back and instilling some of these things I wish I had. I wish I knew. I wish I had connections. I wish I had insight on.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah. So I want to talk about something that, like for me personally, I don't really remember like my past like that. Like
Okay.
I don't remember a time when I wasn't this person.
Yeah.
But a common theme that I do hear, and something that I'm listening to now, and I don't know if this is the case for you, but yeah, a lot of that stuff does come from like your origin, how you kind of came up. Is that still what kind of leads the way for you to continue to do this, or has it evolved into something else?
Definitely an evolution, definitely. When I think about my life now, compared to even a decade ago when I went through divorce, depression, suicidal ideations, and my metaphorical rock bottom,
Mm-hmm.
it's different. I don't have those same rock bottoms. I really don't. And now it's a motivation of like, well, how do I make this bigger than myself?
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the one way that we do that is through Revolt, the mastermind. It's like, wait a minute, we can get 100 high-level, amazing men in a room, so to speak, and equip them to, yes, grow their businesses, but grow themselves.
Yeah.
That ripple effect, amazing, immeasurable, right? And as we continue to grow, that spills over. So that's driving to me.
Yeah.
But I have, I'm a big believer in understanding why you do these things. So what is my motivation now, right? Like why do it now? And hopefully this comes through here. I got to do this every single time. I'm going to rip this jacket. I don't even care. But this is the why. Okay, you can't see it. It might be too far. It says forearm. It's misspelled for the body part. Okay, make your jokes. I wasn't intoxicated when this happened. It was very, very meaningful to me. But this is one of my biggest motivations right now, as far as like, I feel this to my core. This tattoo right here is for my daughter, whose initials are ARM, right? So when I see this every single day, every morning, every up and every down I've ever experienced and ever will, it's on my body. Why do I keep pushing? It's for that little girl. It's for the next generation, right? Why show up amazing to my former wife? And I do my best to have a phenomenal relationship there. Well, so my daughter can see that. So she can have a bar set, a standard set of what she's willing to accept and not. And just like I did, just like a lot of us, to glean information from that. Why does my dad show up like that for my mom and they're not even in a relationship?
Yeah.
Wow, it's because maybe love for people is really important. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should accept that from a future partner, right? So I look at that's my motivation right now. It's her, because I know that she's the next generation. If I can, being on the show, like coming out here, like if one person watches, and I know this sounds cliche, but if one person watching this has a 1% difference in their life, awesome. The trip out here, and certainly the time spent with you and our friends out here, is more than worth that. Every day of the week, I would do this every single day.
Yeah. That's powerful, dude. I have seen you do that, multiple times. But you know what? It still hits all the time. And the crazy thing is, like, yeah, like, cause I have a 1-year-old. She's gonna be 1 on the 26th.
Super cute, by the way.
Thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. And I feel that, I feel like, man, if anything happened, I would run through a wall
Yeah.
for her. It's crazy.
Yeah.
People don't understand until they have a kid. It's just immense. But aside from this, going back to Revolt, like, what do you think these men are lacking? Because they have a lot of the same beliefs that you have, right? You're living it day to day.
Yep.
But there's gonna be times when you fall, just like times when they may
100%.
fall. What's fuck? I feel like I already answered my question. It's community. But yeah, when you speak to them, like, do they feel like they can't talk to anybody, and you guys are the only guys that, like, understands them and can help them through it?
It's context. It's context. Would you bring your biggest mental hurdle to your team in your business?
No.
No,
Yeah.
you wouldn't do it. Neither
Mhm.
would they,
Mhm.
right? It has to be contextual. Like my wife and I, we have an amazing relationship. We're very, like, literally our second date. I think it was our second date. She might say third date. I think it was our second date. She was like, "Hey," and I'm paraphrasing. I'm done dating scrubs
Yeah.
that say that they're all this and they're not that. I'm tired of that. So, and I love you, babe. This is like a kudos to you. Like, get you someone like this. Why don't we, on our second date, our third date, whatever it was, why don't we look at each other's credit scores and bank accounts?
Wow. Damn.
Michael, you're this big speaker guy and you got your business going. You shouldn't have any qualms with that. Dude, I whipped it out so fast.
You did?
I was like, hey, shitty credit, good bank balance. How about you?
Yeah.
She was like, the opposite. This is going to work.
Yeah, yeah.
Her bank balance was great, by the way.
Yeah.
Great credit, mine not so great because of my past. And so, but there are certain things that I will and will not discuss with my wife.
Right.
There's just certain things that she gets to have full transparency and access to, and certain things that because of the context, she won't be able to process the same as I. And same is true. Like, she's empathetic, huge heart, and there's some of those things I just don't really get.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So she only goes so deep with me on those things. And same there. So when we get to show up, you said what's missing? I think it's the foundation. It's foundational things. And this, and these are amazing.
I agree with you.
And these are amazing, amazing men. But there's foundational things that we miss because we don't have that example shown for us. So foundational things. We have a tagline with Revolt: against average. That is our enemy. We don't want to be good, fine, average. We are way more than that, and we live that every single day. And we have these 6 bricks, as we call them. Certain ones like faith, family, health, wealth, growth. And those bricks equal our 6. Those 5 equal our 6, which is legacy.
Yeah.
And so we have designed these incredible processes and events and retreats and aspects of our mastermind to allow them to blow past and go way deeper on every one of those levels in a very congruent manner with who they claim that they want to be.
Right.
Right. So we build them into these people through the foundation. But if we don't have the foundation, we don't hit the finish line.
Yeah,
And that is completion. And I think that's what drives a lot of us as men.
I agree.
Why are you showing up here in Vegas? You know what I mean? To do this amazing show. You want to see it to the fullest, complete,
Yeah.
amazing, high level. That's you.
Mm-hmm.
We could be at any studio. I could be in your basement. You know what I mean? We could toss some cans on and rap all day, record. We could be on Zoom.
Yeah.
But why are we here? Because we want the best.
Right.
100%. And that's the second piece is completion. And that third piece is community.
Yeah.
How do we learn? How do we sustain? How do we have accountability for real with somebody that we know is going to go to the end with us?
Yeah. And you said something powerful, which is accountability. And in my opinion, I think the world lacks that a lot of it, really. And I think that's why, there's just, and it might be an exaggeration, but I truly do feel that, like men like you and other, types of men like this, it's just a dying breed, It's not being praised. It's not being glorified. It's not being talked about like it is in these communities, right? And that's great and all, but like in the span of everything, it's like non-existent.
Let's go there. Let's go there. For your audience, this is a little poll. Have you ever heard of the name Michael Marcial before this podcast? Okay, one. Anybody in the studio? No. He's like, I don't know who you are, bro. Oh, I got another thumbs down. That's perfect. 1/3, right? And if we expound upon that, it's probably one out of the thousands and thousands, right?
Yeah.
Have you heard of Andrew Tate?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We've heard of the top G, correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Why?
Because he's so polarizing.
Polarizing, absolutely. He's going to say basic things in a very incendiary way.
Yep.
Why? So that you hear the message.
Yeah.
And fortunately, unfortunately, that's also not the complete story, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The complete story isn't that men can be amazing and there are, if we want to talk about oppression, men are statistically more oppressed than women. We can look at these things, but at the same time, you don't hear me because I'm just a regular dude doing his thing, and I'm talking to the men in the field. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is why this show becomes important, or things like this. I've been on over 215 stages by now, and hundreds of podcasts. And when we start talking about this topic, other hosts will shy away. We have to ask why. Why is that?
They don't want to get canceled.
They want to get canceled. They want their thing to work.
Completion.
They want the completion. And that accountability now gets to be thrown in the garbage.
Yeah.
Why? Because nobody's watching. If Michael doesn't hit his workout today, who knows?
That's true.
Nobody. I know. So there's millions of men like us that are pushing and trying their hardest and really want to build that forever thing. They want more than just the bank account and friends to show up at their funeral.
Yeah.
They want the next generation set. Right? I want my daughter, and if she chooses to have children, that next generation to be set forever, not just financially.
Right.
I want them to be on a different playing field than I started.
And that's legacy.
That's legacy. And I mean that in the biggest way possible, not just my daughter, but your daughter, right? I want our children to be on a wildly different playing field than where I started, not knowing how to shave, not knowing how to pick up chicks. Okay, I'm lucky. I got some good sales skills, and I closed my wife hard. Okay, she's a baddie, as the kids would say. I married way up. Okay, I'm good with that. I'm praise to sales skills. Yes, thank you. Right, but when we start talking about accountability and all of this, you say you want one thing and you're doing another. Nobody holds you accountable.
Yep.
You don't hold yourself accountable. You want all these things. So when you get community, and this is the third C of this whole thing that I just made up right now. When we look at community, and I know Ulyses. If I told Ulyses today that I want X in my bank account, I want this body fat percentage by such and such date, hold me accountable to that, guess what I'm getting? I'm getting a text on my birthday, which I'm going to put this on record. I want to be in the best physical health of my adult life by my birthday, my 39th birthday, December 11th of 2023.
Got it.
In every area that's measurable. Guess what I know now that I'm going to get on my birthday? I'm going to get a text, a DM, a call. Ulyses might even show up at my doorstep. I don't know.
I'm going to send you this video.
He's going to send me this video. Hey,
Yep.
happy birthday. Right? That's what we are missing. We're missing that. And it's not just accountability just for any other reason, but because we love and we want the best, not just for other people, but for ourselves and our future legacies.
Yeah.
And we're missing all that. But there is a subset of men out there that absolutely resonate with what I just said.
100%.
And they want more of that. But where do you find it? That's where we focus on building and growing Revolt.
So how does it look like if somebody was like, okay, they're listening in, they hear this, they feel it, and they want a community like this? What happens?
I'd be naive to say, reach out to me, go to therevolt.com and,
Yeah.
Do all that stuff. It may not be Revolt. It may be you starting your own thing, right?
Yeah.
It may be building a culture that defines what you feel is important for you.
Yeah.
Right? Because, it's not just a captive audience of just men here.
Right. Right.
But there are pockets of people out there that are pushing towards that purpose, and you need to seek that out. 100%. You want life change? Seek out people that want more for you than you ever thought possible for yourself. Like, that's it. It's reciprocal. You want the best for them, and sometimes we're not the biggest advocate for ourselves. It's okay to have outside external belief for you until you pick up the vision yourself.
And who's that advocate, and who keeps Michael accountable?
I've got some amazing friends in my life. I'm going to tell you, like, Ulyses, you've been a super influential person in my life, just watching how you move and how you operate. So I want to give you just an absolute, like, here on your show, the flowers, the honor. So I really do appreciate that. And as we grow our relationship, like, I'm just super stoked for you, everything I get to see. By the way, congrats on your engagement.
Thank you.
This
Thank
was
you.
recent.
Yeah.
So congrats on that. It's big. That's huge. The founder of Revolt, Hunter Ballou, we've been friends for about 5 years now. Anything that I need, he's on a plane and he's at my doorstep, and absolutely vice versa. That's how we met. He hit me up on social media and was like, "Hey, you do speaking stuff, right? You've been on stages. I have an event that is probably not going to be great, but, like, you should be there." And I was like, "Yes, I'll be in South Carolina."
Yeah.
Stranger from the interwebs.
Yep.
And that's just now how we show up. 100%. That man has been super influential to me. One of my best friends, Jake Kent, who you guys work extremely close. He's head of sales, crushing it for you. He was also in my wedding, and just one of the men that I know is going to hold a standard with me. But I can name these people. I'm going to be in their corner no matter what they need, and they'll do the same for me. 100%. So those are just a couple examples.
Yeah. Well, dude, I appreciate you being on the show. You crushed it. Is there any, last piece of advice for men that, kind of going through it right now and need a community, but maybe Revolt isn't it?
Yeah.
What can they do?
Yeah, 100%. One, I don't say this for any other reasons. Please reach out to someone, your best friend. If you don't have that best friend, reach out to me. You can easily find me on social media. I will tell you from podcasts from years ago, I still get guys reaching out. Shout out to Alex, by the way. This is a few years ago. He heard a podcast that I did, my very first podcast. I was actually, by the way, I was homeless when I did this podcast.
Oh, shoot. Yeah.
It's a long story, but I was actually homeless, and I was like, you know what? If I can create these shitty outcomes, I can create the best, most ridiculous outcomes for me and anybody in my life.
Yeah.
And so ended up being on this podcast just randomly. And he messaged me. He's like, "Hey, man, I was this close to ending it. I was so numb and also overwhelmed with life. I was literally planning this evening to do it. I randomly stumbled upon this podcast. I heard your story. I decided to look you up 5 years later. And now you're in a wildly different spot in life."
Yeah.
And that's what I needed to see. I needed to see that it's possible for somebody that was at the bottom, like I feel like I am, to have just done something with their life. And again, it has nothing to do with me, but he took the initiative to reach out to somebody. So if that's you, reach out to me. Send me a DM. Send me an email. Seriously, I will respond. I respond to everybody. But if it's not me, if you got your boys, you've got your backup, you got your community, awesome. If you don't, I'm going to tell you right now, there are hundreds and hundreds of these communities that are built to support you. That could be through your local church. It could be through men's groups that are just online, right? But do the digging. If you're that close to ending it, do one last push, one last try, one last at bat. Because if you're this low, and you knowing yourself, You've brought yourself here. We know this, right? Full accountability. We know that our results are up to us. If you can create this outcome for yourself, you can create the opposite. So do that. That's my one final push. It doesn't have to be revolt. It may not. It's probably not even a fit for most of the audience. I'm not here pushing revolt, but community is the final piece of the puzzle. And without that, we fail. So do yourself one last at bat and swing for the fences.
Powerful message, dude. Well, I appreciate you being on the show. Where can people find you?
Yeah, I'm on all socials. I live on Facebook and Instagram. Those are my two playgrounds. So Michael Marcial, you can, I mean, seriously find me just about anywhere. The website, therevolt.com, has pretty much everything that we do. If you go to /mastermind, you can hear, hundreds of testimonial videos and all the fun stuff that we're up to. If you're just curious, if you're trying to build your own thing, I would highly suggest looking at a model that works really well. And we've got something pretty special there. So
Perfect. Well, I appreciate you being on the show.
honored to be here. Thank you for having me.
No problem.